Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam. I'm going to take a look around at some of the things that look good here in the garden right at the end of September, right after Tropical Storm Ophelia came by. We have about a little over, the rain gauge holds a little over 5 inches of rain, and it overflowed yesterday, so I actually have no idea how much rain, no idea how much rain we got, but we really did need that rain. This time of year can be so dry in the garden here in Raleigh. Couple of things here that still look really, really great. One is this nightlight Chamaecyparis or false cypress. This thing is super soft to the touch. It's never been pruned. I think that late winter this year, I'm going to prune it a little bit to try to get it down, because it's going to continue to grow every year. And so I really don't want it this tall. I kind of like to maintain it about this tall. It seems to want to grow about 6-8 inches a year. So if I go in here into February, early March, and just give it a haircut about 6 or 8 inches, off the top of it, it'll flush back out, back to this same height. But what a great plant! Really soft textured. Every photo I take out here that includes this, it's just a big pop of, almost like a light bulb standing out here in the front garden space. The sun comes up and hits it. And it kind of illuminates it early in the morning. It's kind of starting to happen right now. And then it's in the sun almost all day. We're a little far south for these, but we've got so many things planted around it that the roots are shaded, and it seems perfectly happy. This ornamental blueberry next to it, and I say ornamental blueberry, it's a real blueberry. It's a native to the southeast United States, and gets the little dangling white flowers that you would expect on a blueberry that the pollinators absolutely love. It gets blueberries. They're much smaller than our commercial blueberries. This cultivar is called Rosa's Blush, and it was picked because all of the new foliage on it's pink. It's past that point during the season, although there's a couple little branches here that have a little pink on the end of them. But it starts off with a pink flush, and then it settles into kind of a blue-green color, and then the oldest foliage on it is kind of a darker green. Always doing something all season long. You get the flush of pink, the white flowers, lots of pollinators, blueberries with birds, blue coloration on it, and then we'll get a bright fall color. This thing will turn pretty vivid red over the next few weeks as it goes to sleep, and then it'll lose its leaves for the winter. And it still has great structure. Blueberries look great in a garden with or without leaves because they have the peeling bark, and just an interesting overall habit. And we've got it kind of tucked under this nightlight Chamaecyparis, so it just spills out where it can spill out. And looks, it's just a great pop of color here in the garden all season. Moving over to another space that's going to get rearranged for sure in this next year. The plants over here look good, but we finally did the siding on the house back here, and there's 5 or 6 feet of bed space back there. And some of these taller things are going to move back toward that section, and some of the smaller things will be slightly rearranged a little bit. This Burning Love Leucothoe continues to be a standout in the garden. It's solid green this time of year going into the fall, but as it gets cooler, as the nights get cooler, it'll start to pick up some purple coloration in it. And over the winter, it'll settle into have a purplish hue to it, and then the new growth will start on the spring, and that will also be purple, and it holds that new growth growing, up until about the first of the summer, and then it settles back into this green. Sometime during that spring season, it also gets little dangly flowers, look just like those blueberry flowers hanging down on it. This is actually an Asian species of Leucothoe. We have native species of Leucothoe to the southeast United States, but this one is actually an Asian one, and it was selected for this compact habit. The fact that it's always doing something. It's flowers like crazy. Pollinators absolutely love it, and then it changes colors, evolves. It's almost like a chameleon out here in the garden during the summer. This one's it's in part shade, perfect place for it. It's getting a little bit of direct sun here or there hitting it, but seems to half and half sunshade. Seems perfect. There's a pineapple sage behind it, definitely one of the plants that will be ultimately moving. These are barely hardy here in our area, and great, funny plants, because this thing came up. This is its 3rd year in the ground, and it came up and stayed this tall all summer long. And then as soon as the night started to get cool here during September, it started to take off. And now it's probably, if we came back out here and filmed this again tomorrow, it would be this tall. And then it would be this tall. With that 5 inches of rain we just got, it's really gonna take off. And it'll be blooming mid-October. Really, really vibrant, almost red flowers that pollinators absolutely love. And then it has this gold, all the new growth on it's gold, old growth on it's green, and a little less sun than it would like, so it's gonna get a little taller than it would otherwise. But it'll be, right now it's 2.5 feet, it'll be 4 to 5 feet tall in 2 weeks and be in bloom. So it's kind of fun to watch something like that really just take off. A couple of more interesting plants. This is a Sarcococca, which is common name sweet box. It's called box because it's actually in the box family, with boxwoods and several other things. But there are like 11 species of Sarcococca. This is Sarcococca orientalis, and it can get a little taller than some of the others. Sarcococca confusa is the one you most commonly see, and it's almost a ground cover, and there's super, super compact ones. But interesting group of evergreen plants that are boxwood-like because they tend to have a really compact habit, nice shiny foliage, a little bit bigger foliage than you'd see on a boxwood typically. But interesting habit, keeping this one a bit smaller than it could be. This can get 50, 60 inches tall probably if we let it. It's already budded up. One of the interesting things about these sweet box is they bloom in the late winter, early spring, before pretty much anything blooms, and they're very, very fragrant. Flowers kind of inconspicuous underneath the foliage, which is kind of weeping down on it. But when those flowers open up, you can really smell them. Very strong fragrance out here in the garden. And whether they've bloomed or not, they're just great plants for part shade conditions. They'll take dry spaces. They'll take kind of semi-moist spaces as well. Easy plants typically out in the garden. And when we do tours of interesting shade gardens, there's almost always some sort of sweet box. One of the interesting sweet boxes are part of that garden. Talk about the Edgeworthia behind me, which is budded up and ready to bloom. It won't. Again, this is another one that blooms super, super early in the season. Yellow and white cluster of flowers that kind of is nodding, meaning it hangs down some on the plant. Beautiful foliage on these, blue-green foliage. Interesting fall color, although we're not going to get a lot of it. We let this one defoliate quite a bit. It got dry over here and it's lost a lot of leaves already. It should be fuller than this. One of my all-time favorite ornamental plants. Really, really easy plant to grow in the garden. Always grows super uniform. This one's never been pruned. It's just, maybe I've pruned a branch here or there. I don't remember now, but I don't think I have. They're perfectly uniform with or without pruning. It always divides into 3, which I find kind of interesting. If you see right here, if you see all the way down there, it divided into 3. And then when it was growing up this way, it divided into 3. And then when it was growing there, it divided into 3. And then out here, it is divided into 3. It always does that. And that kind of is one of the reasons I think it keeps this perfect uniformity to it. These can get quite big. At some point, I will need to get some control added to them. They get these incredibly fragrant, they're super, super showy flowers, but you gotta stand under, you gotta lay under the plant to see them because they're nodding down. Once it gets tall enough though, you can see up into it a bit, but Edgeworthia chrysantha is absolutely one of my all-time favorite ornamental plants. I seem to be doing plants in pairs this morning, and I'll do that again here. This is a gray ghost Illicium, which has this beautiful blue-green variegation. It's like a off-white edge on really a kind of a silver blue leaf. Really, really striking plant. Tried to kill this one back in December on the that December 23rd freeze. Didn't realize I needed to cover it. At that time it was pretty small, and I should have come over here and just thrown a blanket over it because it went from 60 degrees down to 13 really, really quickly. So it damaged it pretty badly, but it has flushed out as the season's gone on. It's really kind of repaired itself, and I think next spring it's just going to really explode pretty quickly. You want to use it as a screening plant back here. It's part of our kind of mixed border screen that we're actually working on a video for right now. And it would have grown quite a bit more this year had it not had to recover from that damage. So a blanket over the top of it would have prevented that damage, and I would have gotten a lot more growth out of it this year. But you know, you live and you learn. It does flower. The flowers are kind of a pinkish, spidery looking flower. If you've ever seen the flower on some of these interesting Illicium, really, really neat. One of the oldest lineages of plants. That super interesting spidery looking flower. So, but anyway, happy that this thing survived and is starting to look like what I had hoped it would look like. Next to it is an osmanthus. This is an orange flowering osmanthus called Apricot Echo. There are actually more orange ones than this one. This one is kind of a pale orange, and initially the flower buds look very white, and then they start to develop a little orange in them, but they're really not quite as orange as some of the other orange varieties. It is very fragrant though, very pungent. Put up a video last week showing the regular osmanthus fragrance. This is, again, an orange flowering cultivar. It's in too much shade and it's stretching like crazy, but I've been able to cut it a couple times now and fill in some of the bottom on it, so it's looking much fuller now. So that's what you're gonna have to do if you put one of these leafy evergreen plants in too much shade and it starts stretching. Occasionally you can just cut on it. These will bloom, and they're coming into full bloom now. They'll bloom September, October, cool nights in September, and then October, November, December. They'll stop in January, February, typically when it's really cold. And then in March and April, you can get some more residual flowers on them. But I love these orange cultivars. They're super showy. Again, this one's probably not the most showy. And then another interesting thing about it is all the new growth on it has this kind of a pinkish burgundy hue to it. So we'll get these flowers right through about, again, April, on and off. And then it puts on a different type of show with all the new growth being this kind of pinkish burgundy color. So that's interesting as well. Toward sometime around the beginning of April, I'll just take about 1 foot to 2 feet off the top of the plant. I'm sure I'll be putting up pruning videos at that time. That'll get some light down here in the bottom of it, and that will continue to work on making it fuller and fuller and kind of compensating for this low light. So there's lots of debris out here from this tropical storm. This dragon prince Cryptomeria just continues to be a show off out here in the garden. Had one in a container out front. This one's been in the ground. This is probably one of the oldest planted plants in the ground at this project. There's a ruby, October Magic Ruby Camellia, I think was the first plant. This may have been the second plant, third plant that was planted out here. So it's over 3 years in the ground, and this is how it's grown. It's never been pruned. If it gets kind of a crazy limb that's getting taller than the rest, that could be taken off whenever, but other than that, this thing will never really need to be pruned. It's soft to the touch. It looks like it'd be a prickly thing, but it's not at all. Incredibly compact habit. Globosinana Cryptomeria is one that everybody's planted forever. It's, they're planted all over the place. But I was just over at Duke Gardens recently, and there's one that's 8 feet tall. If you let Globosinana just grow and grow, it will get that tall. Dragon prince, again, when we're talking about dwarf plants, they're going to grow through the height that's on the tag in all likelihood. But this one's just so slow that it's going to take forever for it to get bigger than you probably want to keep it. So if you can find dragon prince Cryptomeria, I highly recommend it. This is how it looks after 3 years, doing nothing to it. It's had a grapevine laying on it at times. It's had a rosemary laying on it at times. It's had a sage laying on it. It's had a kind of a ground cover rose laying on another side of it. It's probably been one of the more abused, not thought of plants in the landscape this entire time. And so I'd put it right at the top of the list at one of the things that's just kind of survived without us. Other things in the garden have been maintained and thought of quite a bit more than this little hidden dragon prince Cryptomeria. Showed the gray ghost Illicium over there. I think we have at least four Illicium out here, and I may be short one as I'm counting. This is Florida Sunshine Illicium, shown it many times in many different ways on the channel. This is one of my absolute go-to plants. It will take a lot of sun, but it kind of prefers this part shade condition that we've got it in back here. This is a Plant Delights introduction. The one that is in the garden at Plant Delights over at Juniper Level Botanic Garden is big. So it's gotten, you know, without any pruning or without anything done to it over the years, it's probably 12, 15 feet tall. But this thing can be kept 3 or 4 or 5 feet tall. You can do whatever you want to with it. This one's not really being grown for flowers. It's being grown for this really amazing chartreuse foliage. And it's really very, very vivid. If I take any photo back this direction, this light blue backdrop behind it just shows it off even more. It'll stretch a little bit. It's probably a little bit more shade than it would like. So it's stretching up just a bit, but that is easily taken care of. Late winter, I can just cut a foot or two off the top of it. Just love this plant. It's so easy. It's evergreen. You know, so it looks, or ever chartreuse, whatever we want to call it. But it looks like this 12 months out of the year. You don't have to do anything to it other than, again, I'll just give it a haircut in the late winter and move on with life. Keep it mulched, keep the weeds away from it. Easy plant. Last up for this video is this Summertime Blues Vitex. This one is actually a Chicagoland's introduction, which is a Morton Arboretum, the Chicago Botanic Garden, and some other places up in that Chicago area look for new interesting plants, and Summertime Blues is part of that. This one it's been blooming now for 4 months at least. We're way past peak bloom at this point, but it does still have some flowers up here on the top. Pollinators are still visiting them. It's weeping a bit this morning because almost 6 inches of rain yesterday, so it's normally standing up a little more big and tall than it is right now. We've limbed this one up into a tree. Summertime Blues, for those of you living in colder areas, it probably won't put on this much growth in a season, and you can keep this one kind of shrubby if you wanted to. Here in the south, it's waking up so early that it grows so much that I feel like I had to tree form it. Otherwise, it'd get so wide on the ground here every season. These can be cut back super hard in the late winter if you need to control the size on them. They can be tree formed, shrub formed. Summertime Blues will just allow you to do whatever you want to do with it. You know, a lot of people think I don't like crepe myrtles because occasionally I just talk about there's just so overplanted. There's just so many of them planted everywhere. This is a much longer blooming tree than crepe myrtles, and it's, you know, there are pollinators on crepe myrtles, but nothing like on Vitex. Just nothing like on Vitex. It's got that vivid, you can find these in white flowers, mostly though lavender and purples. Long cluster of flowers. As soon as one cluster finishes, it branches and 2 or 3 more clusters of flowers forms, and it just does that for months and months and months. Got a great blue-green foliage to it. Once it loses its leaves, it has really interesting structure if you have them tree formed, same as a crepe myrtle. Bark's not as, bark on crepe myrtles. Some crepe myrtle varieties, have this incredible red bark that really shows off at the bottom and during the winter. So not a comparison there, but much longer bloomed, much better foliage, much more resistant to a lot of, it doesn't, crepe myrtle bark scale has really become an issue, and we're seeing more and more of it in the city of Raleigh. And I know most of the Southeast now, we're seeing bark scale on crepe myrtle. So this is resistant to a lot of that. Also, if you have deer issues, this very fragrant, pungent foliage tends to be resistant to deer and other grazing things that could damage your plants. But Summertime Blues Vitex, kind of a plant that you can do whatever you want to do with it, and it's super long bloomed. Really nothing. No woody plant like this is going to outbloom this over the course of the whole summer. So thank you guys for following along with the channel, just kind of going through, bouncing around, pointing out some things that has survived despite our lower maintenance activity out here this summer. What's looking great in your garden?